overflows with joy to see your smiling faces this evening and to be standing right here, right now. You know, life is funny. Funny, ha ha. Funny, strange. And funny, well, I just can't think of a better word than funny. Thank you. Good night. Wait, whoa. Hold on here, Johnny. We seem to have skipped a little bit. But y'all will please have to forgive me and cut me some slack because I do have cancer. Now, just a little more than a year ago, I was a passenger in a motorcycle wreck. We were cruising down the street, going 10 miles an hour, slowing down to come to a complete stop at a stop sign when we hit a slick spot on the street that just sent the rear wheel out, launching me off the back of the motorcycle, face planting and chest planting into the streets. Oh, I was a mess. My face looked like a poorly made blueberry cobbler, and knots jumped out on my head, and my chest began to hurt. Now, it seemed like it was only a moment before the EMTs showed up, and one of them looked at me and said, "Your nose is broken, and you need to go to the hospital." And I said, "No, my nose is not broken. It always looks like this. And yes, I do need to go to the hospital. But I choose not to take your $1,500 cab ride to the hospital, but thank you for offering anyway." My friend who was piloting the motorcycle called his roommate who had a car, who dropped me off at the hospital at the emergency room, where I thought I would spend a little time because I'd been in a motorcycle wreck. I had big knots on my head. And then they would release me and I would go home later that day. Turns out I spent 5 days in the hospital with a partially collapsed lung. And as they are x-raying my chest to examine this lung, they noticed a shadow on my lung, which they reminded me of every day that I was in the hospital. And I was like, "Yes, I know I heard you the first time. I will have this checked out." Being a long-time smoker, I thought it would be very important to have this checked out. And fortunately, I had Obamacare and was able to get a doctor who would refer me to another doctor, who would refer me to another doctor to get this all checked out. It took a couple of months to get everything going. And those were some very intense months. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. Is it something? Is it nothing? Not knowing was worse than knowing anything at all. And when they finally called me and said, "Well, you have small cell lung cancer," it was a load off my shoulders, knowing, well, at least now I know, now we can do something about it, which required more doctors and more tests. And I will advise you, if you ever have to have a brain scan, they will ask you, "Are you claustrophobic?" Just go ahead and say yes. Because if you are not claustrophobic, you will be claustrophobic by the time it is all over. I am not sure what they did. I kept my eyes closed the whole time, but I could feel them putting weird things on my head, holding it into place. And then sending me into this machine that after a few minutes started vibrating and rattling and shaking, and the horns are going off, and I caught a quick whiff of smoke, and I thought, what in tarnation is going on? Am I re-entering the Earth's atmosphere? No, it's just a test. And of course, the brain scan revealed nothing. And I think that was kind of a little joke from the great mystery, who said, "Yes, they will show nothing on your brain scan, boy, so you can use that moldy old joke for the rest of your life." Then I met new doctors. My chemo doctor Dr. Silly. Yes, Dr. Silly. And I thought, how fitting that I get Dr. Silly. But I'll tell you this, if I come to meet him and he is wearing a Patch Adams clown nose, I am going to have to do some rhinoplasty on him. But no, Dr. Silly was a very good doctor. He was a healer. Now, Doctor, my radiation doctor, not quite so much. He was technically proficient, but after the first time I met him, I felt like all of his ex-wives had to call him doctor at home. He was just that kind of man. And so I went through chemotherapy and radiation, and it was just as bad as everybody lets you on to know. But I made it through, and as I was getting better, feeling healthier, starting to go back to work, it was the mundane aspects of daily life. Washing the dishes, a boring day at work, crowding into an already packed L car that made me think, I fought cancer for this? I reckon I did. But then, I start to get better, and doctor's like, we want to do a little bit of brain radiation because 1/3 of the people who have your condition get brain cancer. And I thought, well, 2/3 do not get brain cancer now, do they? And he said, what we're going to do is radiate your brain. And I said, what now? Okay, now Doctor is now Dr. Rambo. He is coming in shooting from the hip. I did not like that at all either. And then I said, well, so what are the side effects? And well, there were the twins of fatigue and nausea. Been there, done that, know that t-shirt very well. He said, now, some hair loss might be permanent, which really didn't bother me too much. I'm not bringing a lot to the table there to begin with. And there might be some cognitive problems. Now, perhaps I flatter myself, but I like to think that I am rather quick-witted. And so I said, so I have the choice of being dead or being dumb? I think I'm going to have to choose dead. So I passed on his brain radiation. Now, those were kind of the tough things about having cancer, but there were some lighter parts too. The medicinal marijuana card. Now, I think that I have been to some happy places in my life. I have been to Disney World. I have been to the Turtle Bar on St. Martin in the Netherlands Antilles. But nothing is quite like the dispensary. Everybody there is they're very sick, a lot of them, but they're all in good moods and very happy. They're playing Dark Side of the Moon when I walked in. And I thought, okay, well, so here's a little bit of a plus to having cancer. The other thing that was fun about it was playing the cancer card. Now, one day early in the process, I had gone to work after being treated. And it's early in this season, me and the boys are standing around talking, doing nothing. And the boss walks up and goes, well, hey, who wants to help me move some heavy stuff? Nobody said anything right away. Until I went, well, all right. If you have not been through radiation and chemotherapy today, please raise your hand. And when the other boys did, I said, well, boss, I think there are your choices. But even between playing the cancer card and the medicinal marijuana card, I was wondering to myself, am I really getting all that I possibly can out of having cancer? And of course, I'm talking about pity sex. And I was a little bit disappointed, but it is not too late. I will tell you that right now. Ladies in the house, if you want to help a sickly man enjoy some of his last days, open your hearts and various other body parts for me. But to that end, and you know, I thought, you know what? Maybe all my life, all I have ever gotten was pity sex, but I was just too oblivious to know that it was pity sex. And to that end, I contacted the Make-A-Wish people. And I told them about how poor little Louis, having cancer, lung cancer, and dying, and, well, we're all dying. We all die. So, in that sense, I am dying. But how poor little Louis was a very, very big fan of Katy Perry. And how it would really make his last days so much more pleasant if maybe he and Katy could get busy. And they said, well, exactly how old is little Louis? Well, I was 53 at the time. But I was still a kid at heart, I told them. And they said, well, we're just going to have to run that by her. And I said, well, you do that, but get her drunk first, because it has always worked for me. Now, the doctors were, and I'm still waiting to hear back from them, and I will. But the doctors were much more accommodating. I came to see the doctor, Dr. Silly, very funny guy, and I told him about how I was having terrible diarrhea and gas attacks whose intensity would have made a veteran of the Somme have flashbacks, and whose vile odor had me pushing my own fingers back into my hands. I was not sure if that joke would work. And he said, well, you are in luck. We are conducting a clinical study on a certain drug that will help with chemo-induced diarrhea. And they gave me Banantrol, which was the coolest, happiest name. The only thing that I ever took that was better in this whole process than Banantrol was the alien Bubba that I got from the dispensary. But since it was a clinical study, they gave me some papers to where I had to take note and keep track of my bowel movements. And they gave me a chart, the Bristol stool chart, to compare my movements with that chart. And I was just fascinated by this Bristol stool. Did you know that there are 7 types of stool that we all pass? I did not, so thank you, cancer, for giving me that information. But then I started to wonder about where did this Bristol stool chart come from? Is there some doctor who by now is very, very bitter, going, I went to med school, I helped all these people, but yet now I am associated with Dookie? Or was it these doctors got together and said, you know what? I've been to Bristol, and it is a very crappy city, so let us name it after them. But I got to try a bunch of different stool samples and write them down in what I got to call my Dookie diary. Very handy, and I often refer to it when I am longing for those days. I had to opt out of the study, though, when the pendulum swung the other way. Terrible, terrible constipation. Like, I would go 3 days without a bowel movement, and finally something would come out, and it was big and hard, and I would be like, wait a minute, how can there be so much? I've eaten 3 raisins in the past 3 days. Where is all of this coming from? And then there was the worst one that was trying to come out, but it's stuck. And I'm like, Oh my God, what am I going to do? I am going to have to go to the emergency room. But how can I get there? And what will I tell them? So with one last big push, when I regained consciousness, an hour and a half later, I looked in the bowl and I was like, holy shit! Where did that come from? This is completely off the charts. This is why I am fighting cancer. But then I was like, what am I going to do with this? It's not going down, and I pity the dumpster divers in my neighborhood that day. That's all I can say about that. Now, the radiation really fried my throat to where I could not swallow food, and it just generally hurt all the time. And Dr. Silly again, funny guy, said, all righty, we will give you liquid morphine to take orally. And I thought, well, that is kind of extreme. But then I thought, well, I'm already pale and skinny and have dark circles under my eyes and needle marks on my arms. I might as well have some morphine flowing through my brain. And, you know, most pharmacies do not carry liquid morphine, so I had to go out to a special way out west. And I'm like, that is a long bus ride. I do not feel like making that. And I thought about how I had a lot of friends who had said, if you ever need anything, let me know. I will be more than willing to help you. And one of my buddies, Maloney, a Chicago cop, had even said, if you ever need a ride anywhere, let me know and I will come give you a ride. So I called him and he said, cool, I will be there in 20 minutes. And he came and picked me up. And I jumped in his car and said, all right, we are going to Lawrence and Pulaski, a great neighborhood and a perfect neighborhood for where we are getting, to score some morphine. And he said, well, that's fine. And then I said, well, we are not going to a drugstore. We are meeting a guy on the corner of Lawrence and morphine and scoring some morphine. And he said, that's fine. I got my gun. I got my badge. We will take care of things for you. But no, we really went to the Walgreens, and I went in and gave them my prescription. 15 minutes later, they are coming out with a big-ass bottle of morphine and going, well, with the way your insurance works, you have a $0 copay. And I'm like, right. You were giving me this big bottle of morphine, and you were saying the first one is free. I'm waiting for somebody to come up and crack an egg and go, this is your brain on Walgreens. And now, this is your brain on Walgreens with a side of bacon and hash browns. But they give me this big bottle of morphine, and I'm like, can I please have something to measure the doses? Because they were specific about dosage. They gave me a syringe. And I'm like, well, okay. I am at the Lou Reed Walgreens. And I said, well, where is the spike? And they said, don't worry, boy. When you are ready for the spike, you will find one. This is Chicago. But you know, this was during my constipation period, so I did not take a lot of the morphine. I did not throw it away either, because you just don't throw away big bottles of morphine. You keep them handy, because who knows what is going to come down the road. You know, life gives us all dark spots. And some wise guy somewhere once said, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. And if you, when you are facing a dark spot in your life, can find just a little bit of humor, a little bit of absurdity in it all, your life will be much happier. Thank you so much for listening.